Hello everybody. Okay, so I had a client this week that asked me about the Stretch Lab, and I'm not gonna lie, it is the third, I know for a fact, it is the third client that has asked me about Stretch Lab, and I hadn't been, so I haven't been able to give an opinion on it, but she encouraged me to check it out, and today I had the extra time, so I went and I checked it out. So she's asking me, what's my professional opinion, feedback, what did I think? So I would say first thing walking in, I absolutely, I did love kind of like the ambience and the atmosphere. It's freezing cold in there. For people that are trying to stretch, I'm like, oh, it's cold. But, for cleanliness reasons, I also get it too. And the gal at the front desk was super friendly. The first thing she asked me, do you know what PNF stretching is? And I said, yes, I do. And she's like, you're the first person that's ever said that they knew what that was. This is gonna be easy. And I'm like, okay. So it was super cute. I liked the staff. I thought they were awesome. And so moved on past all of that. So the gal that I had today, she was super, super sweet. And I would say, so we're going through different things. So the basis of what they basically do an evaluation. It's a functional movement evaluation where they just have you do a couple squats with your arms overhead. And then they have an app. They have an iPad that is reading your movement and finding slight deviations in it as well as your posture. So pretty core, simple, sound, foundational stuff that they're going off of. And so from that, okay, well, the app says that you are tight here, here, and here. If you have injuries there, do you feel, does that feel valid to you? And so, I didn't have any, I don't have any injuries. I told her I have a rib injury, which I did have a little bit of tightness in one of the areas in mid-back. So maybe that was pulling that up. So cool. And when I walk into a place that has either massage therapy or exercise, I try to keep my mouth shut. I don't want to share what I do or who I am, just because, I don't want it to take away from my experience, because I have had that happen where I walk into a place and then all of a sudden I'm doing all the work and teaching them how to do their job, and it's not fun. But then also I don't want to make them nervous. And then I have also had it go the other way where they're like, oh, well, you do this, so I should, let me show you what I got. And so then the ego goes into play. It's just not fun. So typically I just keep my mouth shut. Well, I had found out, so the gal that I had today, she recently graduated college with a degree in kinesiology. So awesome. And she had asked me, what do I do? And so I just told her, oh, I'm a bodywork therapist. And she goes, oh, so you really know what you're doing? And I'm like, a little. And I love, this gal was honest. This gal, she was like, oh, you're the kind of client that scares the crap out of me. And I gotta commend her for just being bold and totally honest and not letting ego get in anything and just being honest. And I was like, oh, but don't worry, you do your thing. I'm just gonna, And she goes, well, if you have feedback, I would love it. It's only my second day. And so I was like, okay. And so I still kind of tried to keep, stay quiet and not share too much. And she would, intermittently ask me, oh, well, do you feel a stretch here? And, and sometimes the answer was yes, and sometimes the answer was no. And I can tell that her kinesiology degree went to good use, right? There would be little things like, oh, are you feeling a stretch here? And if I told her no, she would change her hand placement. So that was good. And then I honestly really enjoyed, it was probably the first time that I've actually enjoyed kind of going through the motions and giving somebody feedback. And because she was very receptive to everything. She knew exactly what I was talking about on everything. And she was very, I guess, humble, you would say, right? It was a good experience. And I peed. I had to pee afterwards, which is always an indicator for me. If you go to the chiropractor, massage therapist, or doing some good stretches, it should make you have to pee because it's pulling things through your lymphatic system. So kudos to that. But there would be things like I would just simply ask her. Well, she would ask me, do you feel a stretch here? And I was like, well, no, but what are you trying to stretch? And so we would, her and I would just talk it out. And she was like, well, we're trying to stretch this. And I was like, well, then so for instance, on one of them, that's coming to mind was levator scapula. So she went to pull me into a stretch, and I just took my hand and I pinned it. And she goes, "Oh, why did you pin your hand?" And I said, "Well, levator scapula elevates the scapula. So if I want to get an efficient stretch in it, then I need to keep my scapula down, and a way to do that is pin it." And so she's like, "Oh, that's a really good idea." We did another one with the traps, right? So when you turn your neck one way, it's a contralateral contraction. So when I turn my neck to the left, the muscle that's shortening is on the right. So at one point she's taking me through a stretch for, left trap. And so I decided, I was like, well, let me just add this to her stretch that she was already doing, so I could get a little bit more, so I can get a little bit, I'm flexible and I have a very flexible neck. So I needed a little extra something. So I just, at the very end, just turned my neck that way. And so, and then she took that and immediately we went to the other side. She's like, "Okay, so, and don't forget to turn your neck." And she brought it up. And so it was just fun. It was a good experience. It honestly was a really great reminder for me how efficient and effective the PNF stretching is, and to use it more often. Because I honestly, I don't always have that opportunity. It was nice to have somebody else to stretch me, because I know the stretches, but I don't necessarily have somebody to help support me through all the stretches. So for that, I enjoyed it. It's not probably something that I'll do all the time, but at least, I got to experience it. It was fun. I definitely recommend it though for people that don't stretch. That the people that don't stretch on their own, like to be able to have somebody that goes through the stretches and does them for you. For that, it was definitely beneficial. So I hope you guys found that helpful. Mwah. Bye. Hey guys, so there was one thing that I wanted to add. When it comes to stretching, it is really common. People still have that mindset of no pain, no gain. They feel like they have to feel the stretch in order to know that it's working. And that is not the case with stretching at all. Stretching should always be more towards the more gentle side than the, "Oh, I can feel it working," right? So anytime that you're going through stretches, please, please, please make sure that you're not letting somebody take you beyond what your natural range of motion feels safe doing. So for instance, like in my session today with the gal that I had, there were a few times that, she would go into a stretch and then she'd be like, "Well, how's that stretch?" And I was like, "Oh, we probably should have stopped the stretch about 3 inches ago." And it was because I knew that my body was compensating, right? So let's say that she's taking my leg and into a stretch. If my pelvis and my low back starts lifting up off of the bench, then obviously that's no good of a stretch, because then I'm stretching all these other things instead of what I'm trying to stretch. And I know, especially, that was something that her and I discussed while we were going through all the stretches, was I would rather you have control. I'm talking to her. I would rather you have control over how far I stretch rather than giving the person control, just because there is that mindset of no pain, no gain, and people want to feel the stretch, and quite honestly, they don't realize that they're more likely to get injured. So for the safety of herself and for the safety of clients, making sure that you're going through, okay, this is where I'm starting to feel your body is resisting me into this stretch, and so this is where that stretch needs to stop, rather than trying to force it somewhere. You are not going to be able to force your body into a stretch. It is always better to engage activation. That is the whole purpose of the PNF stretch. So essentially, you go into a stretch and then you activate the muscles into that stretch, and then you all of a sudden, it's kind of like, I'm here, I stretch, I hold, I'm holding that stretch, I'm relaxing that stretch. Then I add an active resistance, right? Pushing, but it's still isometric. And then all of a sudden you relax again and it can go further. So that's the whole purpose of the stretching. I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out, keep you guys safe, and I love you guys. Bye.